taking the opening for the next session. Hi, everyone. I'm super excited to share more about the upcoming panel. We have a starry panel coming up, so please welcome Mahesh Medhekar, VP HR, Mercedes-Benz Research and Development India, Clement Rosario, VP HR, Tech, Data and Ops for Z Entertainment Enterprises, Rajendra Ghag, CHRO Blue Dart Express, and Chaitanya Peddi, co-founder Darwinbox as the session moderator as they discuss the criticality of harnessing the power of HR technology to facilitate multiple futures and how leaders are spearheading this dialogue. This truly is a pandemic led conversation, so I'm really looking forward to hearing and learning more. Without any further ado, passing the frame to our exciting panel.
Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us for today's session on harnessing the power of HR tech to facilitate multiple futures. It's quite interesting and a relevant discussion in today's board. There was a time planning was standard and mostly linear and annual. So, however, recent times really changed the whole aspect of future planning across all the functions of any organization, because the world is becoming more unpredictable and rapidly changing. What it means, it is not just about planning for the now, but also about the then, for multiple futures instead of one. HR is no different. In fact, probably facing more challenges in rapidly evolving landscape linked to employee engagement and productivity. HR function in recent times showed a very high degree of resilience and adaptability to change, tackling unforeseen challenges from the whole pandemic, and HR tech played key role in helping organizations to future-proof themselves. Today, we have our eminent speakers who have led this change from the front, and I'm eager to listen to them and learn from their first-hand experiences. So, a question to you, Rajendra. You lead an organization very interestingly with a very huge workforce and distributed workforce. In fact, which cannot stop even for a day, which keeps on moving. So when we talk about multiple futures, primarily from HR context, so one important aspect is future of work. So it keeps on changing, and what was a future of work? We were discussing and debating a year back. Probably the definition would have changed altogether now. So what are different themes that may guide future of work as per you at present today?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Chaitanya. In fact, hello to every other panel member that I have on the screen. Of course, we have to say it on the screen because otherwise we would have said in the panel, correct? That itself is the the indication of the future of work, not to start with. Very interestingly, Chaitanya, when you asked me this question, the future of work, in fact, we also used to earlier debate the work of the future as well, correct? If you remember in some of the panels in the HR, we used to, what's the work of the future and the future of work. But this last 2 years actually, really brought us back to only one, which is the future of work. And work of future is going to be, as we get there, we will actually work accordingly, correct? But the future of work, as we are doing today, is definitely an important aspect. And last 2 years, let's say, have taught us a tremendous stuff, correct? In fact, what probably I can tell you about our industry, a little later, but industry across, correct? If you look at what I think some of us, including some of our senior folks, was saying that it is difficult, if not next to impossible, has become quite easily, possible in last about 18 plus months, correct? And of course, the way we are speaking today, I've been actually speaking like this for last almost about 18, 19 months, barring 1 or 2, let's say, visits in a month to office for any required urgent brainstorming, correct, with my MD or whoever. Now, otherwise, we are equally effective in terms of, delivering what we supposed to deliver to the organization, correct, as an enabling function so far as HR is concerned. But if you look at, I think, as I always say in the panels that, it's not that one size fits all, correct? Even in the pandemic, correct? while we've all gone through what's happening around in terms of the health and safety of the employees, and how do we still, manage our businesses to start with, and then of course, enabling engagement and productivity and so on. But the primary focus was, how do we actually, sustain what you had in, let's say, 2019, correct? So again, one size doesn't fit all. So if you look at, talking specifically to my current organization, which is Blue Dart, the Express Logistic, just by virtue of the, configuration of employees, correct, of my total workforce, 85% is, kind of on the field, correct? They are foot soldiers, so to say, or on the bikes or in the vans, correct? And without them being on the field, we can't really run our business, even during the pandemic, correct? So that's 85% of the workforce. If I have to add indirect, it's about 40,000, strong workforce, correct? And of that 85%, almost about 30 to 33,000 employees are there on the field, correct? And you can't have work from home for them. So that is one caveat, correct? And then of course you have the balance 15% who can work from home. As a first, simple word, and how do you make them effective so that this 85% are enabled, correct, to actually run the business smoothly without impacting, let's say, the health and, let's say, safety of the employees, which is very, very important. So that became a very, very, let's say, a challenging situation. And I must tell you, as an experience, that with all those earlier difficult stuff, which, again, the mindset of the employees, including senior management, in fact, I would say mostly senior management, became very, very kind of possible, correct? If you look at those 85% people with a lot of support on a daily basis are working effectively. Must say that, since we had the board meeting recently and it's on the record in the public domain, we performed very well. Even in the first lockdown last year, barring those couple of months, because we've done, let's say, essential services and, help to the government, the medical equipment and so on and so forth, I think in a 12 months period, we could actually manage our business as close to normal. It would have actually happened in the normal circumstances. And of course, last year, 2021, as we finished the year in December, I think we performed one of the best in the history, by the way, in terms of the business performance. Okay, and not only in India as Blue Dart, but at the global organization DHL. In fact, they've said on record that this is a historic performance for a company like DHL, and I'm sure it is true for the logistic industries across and all those similar industries. Correct.
Cool. Thanks, Rajendra. So what you were saying is what we've seen in the last 2 years, it is going to continue more like a hybrid sort of scenario.
Yes, and of course with the advancement in the further technological enablement, correct?
Absolutely.
That's good.
Absolutely.
We have to progress always, isn't it?
Oh, thank you. So moving to Mahesh, same question. From your industry perspective, you lead very high-end engineers in your organization. So how do you see future of work in general and more importantly from your organization or sector perspective?
Yeah, thank you for extending that question. And once again, also warm welcome from my side to the panelists, to you, Chaitanya, and all the audience here. Obviously, I represented the mobility industry, and we are closer to Rajendra from I would say the business standpoint, right? They are into logistics, supply chain, and we in a way enable that from a mobility standpoint. So we are looking at it from 3 dimensions, and this is what I have also come across in one of the reports of Deloitte, where there are 3 futures most of the people are talking about. One is the future of enterprise, how the enterprises are going to change because of the technology or the technological disruption, the aspect of social enterprise which is taking place, where organizations, they want to be more social, and obviously the digitalization or the disruption which is happening because of digitalization, how the future of enterprise is going to look like. That's the first future. Second is obviously the future of workforce. So if you know the future of enterprise, what kind of workforce do you really need to basically run that enterprise? So there is a discussion around skilling. There is a discussion around the contingent workforce. There is a discussion around, how do you mobilize the current workforce from the kind of skills what they have, reskilling and upskilling aspect. So I think that's a second future what we are talking about. And the third one is the future of work, as you exactly said. And I like that term which we have been debating earlier as well, work of future. And I think there is a time to take a little pause or gap now. And there, I think we have got this fantastic opportunity that way. If I look at the positive side of COVID, right? That it's a pause, it's a gap which we have received to really repurpose the organization. Many people have seen to repurpose their lives as well. And this is typically seen in all the cultures, right? If I take that example, why these spaces or the gaps or pauses are important. Peter Hawkins, the leading coach as well as leadership guru, he uses this word ma, which is a Japanese kanji letter, which stands for space, pause, or a gap, which is necessary when you talk about dance, when you talk about having a wheel with the spokes with gap between it, having an earthen pot which has a gap inside, which makes it more meaningful, or giving a sense to it in a way. So I think this pause is really an aspect which we have to look at, which Peter Hawkins has used more from a coaching standpoint. But here also, when we define the future, we have to start defining how the work would look like. And when the future of organization and workforce is clear, the work definition is going to be an important aspect. And I agree with Rajendra with our experience also in last 18 to 20 months that hybrid is what we are looking at. There are 2 or 3 personas what we can see coming out of it, where one category of people would like to continue to work from home. One category of people would like to have a mix of it because they feel good when they meet, chat up with colleagues, have those water cooler moments or have those touch points within the organization. And third set of people who lead the organizations or who lead the certain functions, they are enjoying to be in office more or less regularly, right? So this is how we are looking at it. But certainly, I think the future of the enterprises and workforce is, which is what is leading to definition of work. And once the work clearly gets defined, whether it is digital, whether it is automated, whether it is collaborating with AI-enabled solutions, I think then these 3 categories of different personas can be looked as the future of work. So that's basically my take on it.
Oh, thanks, Mahesh. Thank you very much. So moving to Clement, pretty much the same question. Just from your perspective, from your org perspective, how do you see future of work evolving?
Thanks, Chaitanya. I think I'm glad that we are taking the topic of multiple futures and the future of work today. And that brings to a lot of thought. And warm welcome to everyone. Warm welcome to the panels here. While Rajendra covered about the speed of technology advancement which has happened during the pandemic, or Mahesh speaking about upskilling the gaps and therefore in the hybrid environment of the work, I would specifically want to touch upon 3 aspects which is going to be important in this hybrid method in step, and how HR tech can support those very strongly. The first would be, in fact, diversity and inclusion. So while we have always been speaking about gender diversity, that continues to be, but the topic on diversity which I'm talking is go beyond that. It's beyond gender. It could be on an introvert, extrovert personality. It could be on a procrastinator, precrastinator personality. And second is on the mental fitness. Mental fitness, it is not only about rolling out the wellness or the mental fitness, but it's also about prevention. What prevention we can do. It could be manager sensitization, or it could be managing the workload. So how can we do prevention methodologies to ensure that these mental wellness and everything are taken care from a future of work perspective. The third, while there are many, but the third again is the managing performance. Performance managing in this hybrid scenario and in this VUCA scenario, is become very critical. And having a right metric and having a right performance tools in place to ensure productivity, because all these 3 topics has a key contributor to the org productivity. Correct, and I see, they will enable strongly, and HR tech has a great role to play in this. To support these sections and drive the org productivity. Like I was mentioning about diversity, so even within our organization, we have a personality like one who is introvert or one who is extrovert, right? introvert is equally good than an extrovert. While most of the time what happens in recognition or something, extrovert personality is kind of picked up, or there's a promotion which is picked up. In fact, I'll tell you a classic example in my previous setup. While I spoke about HR tech, also the data and people analytics, of course, it is enabled through HR tech. We used to start reporting this analytics and data. While at an org level, we always used to have a cap. We have a quarterly reward system. We used to have a cap of around 3 to 5%, beyond which we cannot nominate or reward people. So that is something which we used to measure across the company and across the business heads. But we never went in depth in seeing which are the roles. So in fact, we kind of analyzed the last 12 quarter data, and we saw that most of these awards were going to a marketing or a sales or these kind of roles in a business head. And these are the data which we presented to a business head. And we realized that in the last 12 quarters, the operations team, which were quieter, and they were very equal importance to the organization, only 0.5% of the people were getting nominated or rewarded. So that kind of sparked the thought, and from that quarter onwards, there was an equal representation. So a tech and a data, it can bring in a lot of value. And this is one example of diversity, and there are many. We also, also hear about procrastinators or precrastinators, and the importance of both personality being in the organization, and whether technology and data, how can combine both, the best of both of them, and support is going to be the future of work. And that is my take.
Good. Fantastic insights, Clement. So like we unanimously agree that it is going to be hybrid. And in that scenario, the biases or the personality differences, they only become more and more difficult to manage compared to everyone, working from office sort of a scenario. So you also talked about interesting aspect, mental health or mental wellness or fitness. So again, this has become a recent expectation, or everyone is recognizing the importance of it, and they're expecting HR to own this and manage this aspect as well. So quite interestingly, that is what leading to my next question as well. So the entire role of HR, it is also evolving or changing as employees are increasingly demanding more flexibility at work. And we are seeing hybrid sort of a scenario that is evolving. So the question is, how is it going to evolve? Or even more precisely, what can HR do to stay ahead of time to accommodate these changes?
So to me, I think the mental wellness of employees is going to be a must-have, enabler of the business in the HR, let's say repository, so to say. And if you do not have that, you would probably, if you are lucky, work for the shorter period with little better engagement, but you will see that going down, with the passage of time, is my view. So it's a must-have.
Thank you, Rajendra. Okay, so Clement, coming back to you, apart from mental wellness, what are other things that HR can do to stay ahead of time to accommodate the changes that we are talking about?
Right. So Chaitanya, in fact, I'll stretch on the mental wellness piece, and then continue to the flexibility which needs to be done. As I mentioned, mental wellness is not only about rolling. Of course, in the pandemic, there was super quick execution, which we have done both in terms of physical or mental wellness, and technology has played a great role. Maybe a couple of years back, we wouldn't have ever thought about having doctor consultation virtually, right? Today, it practically happens. So, there are many tools, and the technology overall in the country has combined together to enable and support this. And since I spoke about prevention as one piece, which is about managing workload and managing even the manager sensitization. So coming to workload, I think stopping the effort, stopping measuring the efforts, and focusing on output is the key, which many organizations are now shifting to. In fact, last year in Z, earlier we used to have a traditional method of having clocking this many hours or these many things. I think many organizations are now moving into having an outcome-oriented piece rather than having clocking so many hours. So that is one piece, and there is still a lot of organizations which need to catch up. But I think organizations need to be very clear and see how they can do that relevantly. In fact, if I have to talk about my previous setup there, way back in 2017 or 18, even before COVID had come into play, we had unlimited work from home opportunity. And the senior leader, the CEO, was keenly interested in this. So this has to be driven at a top level. And we used to have this quarterly reward, which I spoke about earlier. And this was announced by the CEO to the entire organization that the work flexibility is something which is important for us. There is unlimited work from home. We are not going to track your in and out time and everything. But at the same time, at the back end, the point was we are going to measure your outcome, the customer satisfaction scores or the output. It could be financial numbers, whether those are intact throughout. Those are something which we kept on measuring, and we ensured that these flexibility are given. So this kind of distresses the employee at some time, which kind of goes from a perspective that no one is monitoring and let me kind of do the work freely. So that is a flexibility which an employee gets it here. The other point which I would like to touch upon is on the HR tech. Gone are the days. Today we can't expect an employee to navigate through multiple clicks and go to multiple systems to go and apply a leave, right? The flexibility has to be, it has to be as max at the chat level. We have to just put it on a chat bot and it should apply on its own. Similarly, there are many employee-related transactions which can be done on a click. So the focus is, which we are doing it in Z, which we have done it in Z, is to reduce the number of clicks an employee has been doing it, so that there is more flexibility to an employee rather than putting stress on that I need to do this huge activity for even to apply as well. So those are my few takes, Chaitanya, in terms of how we can enable flexibility.
So Mahesh, while before discussing maybe a little more on tech, so at a broad level from HR function perspective, what are things that you recommend to stay ahead of time to accommodate the changes that we're talking about?
Yeah, so holistically speaking, 4 things that come to my mind. One is obviously with the changing nature of business or the changing nature of workforce, is how do we provide that purpose to the employees? Because employees are now asking for purpose, how my contribution or my work is really going to make a difference to the organization. And we have to see also that in the hybrid context, how do we really—
This is across levels, right? I mean,
across levels. Yeah. Because even at a junior level, junior most level also, a person who's coming out of university, he's also asking that question, what is that I can really relate from my day-to-day task, how it is going to make a difference to the organization. So I think HR has to really think about how—
they're also asking what's in it for me sometimes. Sorry
what's
to
in it for
interrupt.
me. Yeah, the WIM principle. Secondly, we have to see how do we really value people, because people are staying with the organizations where they are being valued, their contribution is being valued. And it becomes a challenge when people are working virtually. How do you connect with them? How do you talk to them? How do you really put that real appreciation for their efforts? So that is what the change also what we have seen, that people are staying with the organization unless or if they are being valued by their respective manager or the management. Third one, important aspect looking at the hybrid or the technologies I see is the employee experience. And Clement talked about the technology for applying for leaves. So I think whole lot of things HR has to relook at their policies, processes, tool, because what had happened after the first wave, we went into BCP mode. We tried automating things which were not automated. Maybe some organizations have really seen that as a transformation on a technology side. But I think, are we there? Are we ready from a technical transformation or digital transformation perspective with our HR policies and processes? Not fully, right? At least we are not yet there. So we have to start really looking at if 30-50% workforce is going to be permanently working from wherever they are my HR policies and processes are really up to date? And can I give that kind of an enhanced experience to those people without really differentiating whether you're working in office or whether you're working from home or anywhere else in the world? Third, or the fourth one is the standard things what we do from a recognition and reward perspective. So if we look at the reward piece of it, on the compensation side, benefit side, how we really look at that particular aspect. I think these 4 things I look at as the things where HR can really make a difference. And this is also the ask from business. HR, please start thinking on those lines and please be ready, because the changes are bound to happen. And this is what we have seen in the last couple of months. And the last tick, as we discussed on wellness or well-being, that is obviously of the paramount importance to us. And what we did is we ran a couple of things, starting with physical wellness to mental wellness, even added some financial wellness aspects because of the COVID situation. And the last one was also on the social wellness, right? How do we get people together so that the engagement piece or the connections, what they were, social connections which they were missing, how we can also bind them together in the difficult times. So yes, that is going to be another dimension which we will have to continue to work on in addition to the other four things which I have mentioned.
Awesome. Cool. Thank you. So interestingly, I mean, if I kind of reflect on our conversation so far, while there are multiple futures that are possible, so how do we make ourselves future proof by focusing on certain key themes? The dominant theme is going to be hybrid way of working, and in that environment, you need to solve for employee experience, employee wellness, and you also need to solve for providing them a purpose. And how do you value them truly? In a way, it is also linked to rewarding them and recognizing them. So by doing these things well, I think irrespective of whatever direction the future may take, you can make the organization future proof. If I maybe take a step back and ask, business, what is the expectation that you have from HR? So while not going at a tactical or double clicking to the next level, at a high level, they say HR is expected to solve two aspects: engagement and productivity. I want productivity to be at the same level or a higher level than before. At the same time, I want people to be engaged, happy, healthy, and well. So that is also in a way can be solved with the themes that we spoke about. Now for solving this, obviously technology plays very, very important role. Now the question to you, Clement, so while you also briefly touched upon it, so what is the role or expectations from HR technology in enabling organizations in dimensions that we spoke about?
So HR technology, and I would always add data along with that, is as a huge role to play, and it is important to get the right strategy, right system architecture in place, to design the right system architecture in place. It could be covering all the aspects of an employee life cycle, starting from the recruitment to the end stage of getting all the data at one place. In fact, to touch on the recruitment, and I've always been hearing about a recruitment done well is HR's job half done well, right? So, but the HR recruitment technology has always been lagging behind. As I mentioned earlier, in fact, 2 years back when the pandemic struck, for the initial 3 months, we were in the state that people are losing jobs. There is no job in the market. People, the openings were not available at all. And since last 1 year, it has completely reversed. There's a scarcity of talent.
Yeah.
Everyone is pouncing on the talent, and you don't have talent at all. So the way technology has kind of covered and consolidated overall, it has given more and more productivity to the entire country. There is digital transaction has paved the way in the way things have moved faster. You have seen the capital markets has more than doubled since the last 1.5 years. The consumption is at all-time high, in the country. And this has all led to a lot of opportunity in the market, and hiring a right talent, therefore, becomes a critical point for HR. And when I say it's not only about recruitment, it's also about keeping the candidate engaged, and from hiring to the induction, and getting the candidate assimilated to the culture of the organization through technology, ensuring that there is a continuous feedback loop with the candidate, or when the candidate onboards us as an employee during the initial 30 days. I think other than all the goodies and benefits which you would have been hearing about by all the organization to attract talent, I think having this enabled through technology, embedding the culture and assimilating all our employees to our organization culture is going to be an important aspect, which technology can enable a lot to get our talent attracted to the company. So that is one aspect, which I would touch upon is an important one. And if that done well, the rest of the employee life cycle, and if it's continued, can be managed well. And in terms of strategy of HR technology, in fact, way back, a decade back or 2 decades back, it used to be an integrated model. I know Chaitanya, you sitting at that seat would differ to this point. Earlier people were gung-ho about going to a system which used to be an integrated one, right? We used to go to a system which has all the modules in place. Yeah. But and that time people used to fear integrating the systems. Hence they used to go for a system which is already integrated. But in the last 2 to 3 years, you've seen, integration has become very easy. The APIs are available. And in my past experience, or even now, what I've seen is if you have gone to the product, there are companies which are available with 6, 7 modules or 10 modules. Maybe 1 or 2 or 3 modules are the best in class.
Best modules.
But the rest, we compromise and we take those because we wanted an integrated model. But today, organization is moving. Even in Z, we are shifting the pivot there. We're thinking about having one system of records in place centrally and having those best module and going for a boutique kind of a system, which are available in the market, which are best in class, maybe for the performance management, maybe for recruitment, maybe for assessment, maybe for onboarding separately, maybe for offboarding separately, and see whether we can integrate. And for an employee, it's one experience. And it's not that there is no separate system, but how are we able to integrate and create an experience layer? In fact, as we are talking, we are about to launch an experience layer in Z, which kind of accumulates all HR tech into one. And it's not only HR tech, it goes beyond HR tech, it goes into work tech, the work tech which each of the employees keep on doing on a day-to-day. We're trying to, at least as a first step, get into one place, into an app, so that they can pin in. So, why I'm elaborating this is these are very critical from an employee experience point of view, so that you are able to flexibly move from a future perspective and move, plug and play accordingly and play the thing. The other aspects, you can buy from the market. What we have also done in Z is we had a recognition platform. We have built it from the scratch. We worked with a partner and we built it. The source code is ours, and that becomes our product. And according to me, that's a best-in-class product. The moment we launched it, in fact, we had a plan for numerous creatives so that we can keep on nudging the people to be engaged in the peer-to-peer recognition platform. But we had to stop immediately post 2 creatives. Because the platform, we had seen almost 50% engagement of our employees getting engaged in that platform in the initial 1 month. And even now we have continuous engagement. So what we did differently in those platforms is we ensured that the UI UX is not compromised. The placement of each of the section is very carefully done, so that the human behavior is taken into consideration, so that to understand how they use the system. And the one centric point of whenever we design any product is product which needs a manual is broken. This is something which Elon Musk had mentioned while he was launching his Tesla car, right? So this has been centric to me, and this has been deeply with me. Whenever I launch a tech product, or whenever we work on a tech or any processes or data, a product which needs a manual. So a product which you are able to develop, which is intuitive, which is seamlessly going on its own. You don't need to put a lot of effort on adoption, because adoption becomes a critical point again, when you have to launch, and that becomes a huge struggle if you are launching a system which is not fully equipped, and then you have to put a lot of effort in communicating and ensuring that there is a forced adoption there. But if you are able to put a lot of thought much before and design a product in such a manner, or go for a product which are best in class, then I think you will be able to manage the future and the multiple futures.
Cool. Thanks, Clement. So thank you very much. Rajendra, coming to you, your take on the role of HR tech, or expectations from HR technology and this whole thing.
Yeah. Thanks, Chaitanya. Of course, I would just go with what Clement said. Again, depending on which organization you are in, correct? Because we're talking about HR tech, and we're also talking about the corporates, correct? Those who are good, those who are actually large, medium, and of course, forward-looking. But I think the fact remains that we still have about 80% of our organizations in unorganized sector, correct? But even there, in fact, the small, the big, they, I think, are finding it as a must-have again, correct? Again, if somebody says, of course, there are those other organizations which are still working manually, because they're still able to run. I would not say sustain, but run, correct? But I think since we're talking about HR tech on this platform, naturally we're talking about those companies who are actually there, correct, in terms of the business, the side, the sustainability. So I know what Clement said, from hiring to retiring, correct? I think the entire life cycle of employee now, if you are claiming to be a good employer, correct? I mean, with the business as well, then the talent who's coming in, they expect this to be there. Yeah. And if they expect this to be there, in fact, right at the time of interview, correct? How do you shortlist the CV? How do you actually shortlist the candidates, correct? How do you actually call them, for an appointment of first interview or whatever, correct? I mean, the psychometric, they actually judge you, saying that, oh, is this kind of state of art, correct? And from there it starts, correct? Of course, unless they have no choice in terms of their competence, then they come to you, by the way. I mean, it's not that you don't get candidates, correct? If you're not tech company in terms of the HR. So I think to us, again, since we are part of DPDHL, correct? It's a global organization. Blue Dot has always been ahead in terms of the tech, correct? So like Clement said, in fact, I have an app called Blue Connect, correct? So it's actually a one window on mobile now. And this has again got a little better in last about 2 years, I must say, because the adaptability in terms of the user experience and user adaptability wasn't that high, correct, in 90s and 95 and all that. But in last 2 years, there is no choice. In fact, everybody has to only do that because I actually closed other things, correct? But have you provided for it to start with, correct? That is one. And when you provided for it, actually, are you as an HR fraternity really finding it to be, let's say, convenient to use? Is it user friendly, correct? Right, from onboarding to hiring, as Clement said, in India, I guess, my view, the HR recruitment process is not completely tech-enabled. There is a reason for that, correct? Imagine that if you get the CVs of, let's say, particularly in the organization like ours, where you have a lot of this front line, correct? If you get the CVs of, let's say, candidates from the provider, and if you don't check, correct, with maybe technology now, but we don't check the authenticity of the addresses and the personal information that comes in on the CV, that becomes your master data for, the entire life, correct? So if that filter is not really checked, even I think many organizations today do it manually, correct? That the first or second, what you call a hopper of your entire tech, correct, is not used completely because there is a reason, statutory reason, a legal reason for that, correct? Now the technology is also now trying to get in, saying that, okay, is this really authentic, correct? What you are getting it automatically from the first, let's say, filter, correct? Now, barring that, I guess if you ask me the onward journey, right, from onboarding to, retiring, including the talent development, correct? I think everything is on tech now, which is user friendly. It gives them a good experience. For example, for last 1 week, I have been pushing my senior management, by the way, the SMT, to do the mandatory learnings that the entire global organization wants us to do. Now, of course, we transitioned to DPDHL after some of us have joined about a couple of years back, and we are transitioning still, on the single platform now. Now, because they haven't done this earlier, even senior management, they were, bit what you called reluctant, correct? Because they always will get the reason of seamlessness of the connectivity and stuff like that. But moment we said no, it is seamless. We've tried it. It is actually very, very seamless. Believe you me, in fact, 20 of them in last about 2 weeks, when they actually were pushed to do it, correct, they came back with the feedback on their own, not even asking from the HR side, saying that this was so good, so user friendly. I mean, quick quizzes, quick results. You get a certificate online, and it was a fantastic experience. Now this is a feedback coming in. So my point is that while HR tech, right from hiring to retiring, is an essential part. Again, those who can actually let's say afford, and people should afford it. By the way, it's a business expense now. Yeah. So I think it is there, but I think HR should make sure that it is not just a provision of the HR tech, correct, but it's user friendly. The UX, correct, because UI is of course your backend. I mean, your user interface. That how do you do it? But that provides you the experience, correct? That's the lag. So if that experience is not there, the people give up. I mean, we found out as to why people are giving up it after 2-3 attempts. Then they said, no. Once you type in the user ID and password, it doesn't get accepted, doesn't get locked in. Now we found out the root cause that, that requirement is once in 3 months or once in 4 months, correct? Which you don't require to do it every day. And that's why you forget your password and user ID, correct? So how do you make that now, also easy for employee, even if he logs in after 3 months, correct? I'm sure there's a tech answers to that. So we've done this. And now people are saying, no, it's actually single sign-on, seamless. And we find it actually very easy to do it even on the mobile, correct? Somebody has done it while sitting behind the car, I mean, in the backside of the car, backseat of the car. So I think my point, in this deliberation is that provide it, and that's a must-have. But after providing, test it yourself as an HR fraternity. Is it really serving the purpose in terms of the user friendliness? And is it convenient to use? Correct? Otherwise, it becomes very complex. That's my opinion. So we've done all that. I think in Dudat, I think we have most of it. I think some of them are still in the testing phase. But we have ambition of doing everything on, let's say one single app from Blue Connect, whether it's a business or HR.
Thank you. So Mahesh, moving on to you, your take on a role of HR technology or expectations from HR technology to make the organization future-proof.
Yeah, we started our journey almost 5 years back, focusing on the tech on the HR side, and we looked at 4 stakeholders here in terms of the transformation. And the first one is obviously the employees. And both Rajendra and Clement talked about user experience, user interface. I think those were the key elements which we looked at it, and also the fact that not really get into a integrated solution, but also see what are the multiple solutions what we can use, which are available as boutique solutions or specialized solution for different HR things which can enhance the experience. First thing we worked on was the hiring process, as everyone said, and that we made it paperless almost 4 years ago, right? And to the extent that not just the data, but also making sure that the data flows into the HR master database, and also the documents they get archived in a way so that there is no duplication of job between recruitment team and the HR operations team. So like that, we went into different processes, but employee is the first stakeholder what we have to look at from a UI UX perspective to really give them that experience when they get into the organization, and also the shift whatever is needed because of the transition what we have seen. Second dimension is managers, because they look at how can you keep it easy for them, because many of the managers have complained in this automation or transformation process that you have dumped a lot of jobs on them, and they are actually doing those jobs which HR was doing manually earlier. So that is another concern which we are now trying to address to see how we can keep it easy. And as Rajendra said, on mobile, keep it easy for them, not to put them or keep them busy with a lot of administrative tasks. Third one, I would say HR themselves, because many times HR part is ignored, whether they are equipped, typically the HR business partners, whether they are having that mindset, competencies, skills. That is where we had invested a couple of years back and made them enable to a certain extent. The journey is on still. So we are again in discussion with some institutions here in India to see how we can really build that mindset, train them not just on the understanding these things, but now also on the tools, technologies, because that is also getting an important thing from a business standpoint. And fourth one, as you said, what are the expectations from management? And these are actually the crucial ones, because they want HR to be data savvy. They want HR to be helping them to take decisions based on the data. So data-driven decision making is one of the big asks. Second, they also want us to be agile and be innovative in terms of bringing solutions. So when we solve problems, again, how can we use data? How can we use AI for speeding up the recruitment process? So those are the challenges which are being discussed from an expectation standpoint. Third one is, can we also typically in our management reviews or in some board meetings or some other meetings, can we also build a story from the data what we are sitting on, be it on a skill front, be it on the futuristic skill development. So storytelling is also another dimension what we are looking at. And the one more aspect is also what are we doing from an engagement standpoint, right? Attrition is one of the favorite topics in the last couple of months, especially last 6 months. Yeah. So what are we going to do with the predictive attrition? Because many times the dashboards are there, the data is being generated. We know what kind of people, who are those people are going to leave the organization. But what are we going to do about it? right? What are those actions, and whether those actions are really impacting your retention. I think that is, again, we have to drive it through analyzing the data. So I think data-driven decision making, innovating different solutions. So having that problem-solving approach using the data, and also using predictive analysis, not just to analyze, but also to define actions which can really bring the impact. I think these are the typical asks what we have from a HR tech perspective.
Cool. Thanks. Thank you very much. If I summarize again, the first thing is having your entire life cycle. I had to retire automated and covered through technology, and then you can take a call between build versus buy within the buy as well. You can buy integrated suite or best of the products or solutions, and then obviously leverage artificial intelligence, etc., to make decisions very, very effectively. But net end of, the common theme is adoption is the mother metric. So you need to ensure people are using the technology, and for that, intuitive and good UI and UX is essential. So that way, using technology also, you can future-proof organizations. Thank you very much. So with that, we conclude today's conversation. Thanks to all the panelists. Thank Rajendra, Mahesh, and Clement for sharing your thoughts very openly and your first-hand experiences. So thank you very much.
Taking the closing now. Thank you so much, Clement, Mahesh, Rajendra, and Chaitanya. You all were terrific. Loved the distinctive take that you all brought to this fabulous panel. And for our audience, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to see you on the other side of the agenda.